Good morning, folks. This is your Ticker Guy update for the 27th. Want to put a little note up. Fertility rate in the United States fell in 2018 for the fourth straight year, extending a steep decline in births that began in 2008. It's a New York Times article. Jack Poso said, "Be a rebel, start a family." Yeah, okay. I tell you what, Jack. Let me tell you what my response is. Be a rebel. Take all the medical monopolists and throw them in prison. Start right there, okay? Because that baby that you want to have should cost $1,000 to have in the hospital, assuming it's a normal vaginal birth. It's not. It's $8 to $10,000. At the same time, you will take about 15 to 20% and immediately tack it on everyone's wages because they won't have to pay for overpriced medical care that, by the way, is consuming about 20% of GDP. And that, at the same time, will stop most of the deficit spending in the United States. May I remind you that intelligent people choose to have children because they believe, on the manifest weight of the evidence, that their children will have a better life, or at least an equal life to what they have. Intelligent people do not start families and do not have babies if they believe that their children are going to have a worse life than the one that they have. And when you have a small number of rocket scientists and people who make billions of dollars, like Michael Bloomberg and Donald J. Trump, and, oh, by the way, if you get into Congress and you get $10 million because you have some hinky deal in the Ukraine, you're not worried about such things, and you will screw like bunny rabbits and have all the kids that you want. Oh, how about everybody else? You know, all these people that run around screaming about how abortion is such a terrible thing, you realize that the majority of abortions are economic decisions. They're not, well, you know, I really don't like the idea of children. I think children are terrible. They're awful things. They're cancers. Most people don't think that way. Most women don't think that way. Most women who have had abortions certainly don't think that way. I mean, I'm sure there are some that just say, well, you know, I don't want anything, you know, making me fat or make anything coming on my VJ or whatever. I'm sure that's there, but that's not the majority of it. The majority of it is, I was having sex. Maybe I was taking precautions. Maybe I wasn't because I was stupid. But whatever the case may be, I got knocked up, and I have no reasonable way to care for this kid. And when I think about the manifest weight of the evidence is this child is going to have a worse life than I have. And I don't want to do that to them. You know, maybe, just maybe, if you want the birth rate to go up, if you want people to have families, well, then you ought to start with the medical monopolists, and you ought to lock them all up. And those who won't leave, and if the politicians will not do it, then maybe we need to have 1776 Part 2. Because if you want the average American, the average person of better ability to discern, in other words, they are mentally better than just people that screw like rabbits. If that's who you want to have children, and boy, that's who you want to have children, I would think, right? The people that have a little more intelligence, a little more common sense, some rational capability, okay? Not the sort of sex that they're now getting over in the Baltics and in Sweden and the Nordic countries because, you know, they brought all these people in who have absolutely no common sense, and furthermore, they have no sense of decorum either, so they just grab a woman and they screw her. We normally call that rape. You're not supposed to want to make children that way, I wouldn't think. That's Genghis Khan style stuff. But no. You know, we got the scolds coming because the birth rate is so low. Well, you want to know why the birth rate's so low? It's because of the policies in our government. It is because we think we can run a 25% fiscal deficit and just tack on trillion-dollar deficits year after year, and nothing bad will happen. Meanwhile, everybody has a job, but it's a 30-hour-a-week job with no benefits and no advancement. They're crap. And this has been going on for a long time. But it got a whole lot worse after 2008 because, you know, before 2008, my God, you didn't have to have any common sense at all. You could get a mortgage for a house with no money. And you could get a teaser rate. And by God, I could have this really nice house in this nice neighborhood because I didn't actually have to pay anything except maybe part of the interest for a couple of years. Problem, of course, with that is that if the value of the house doesn't go up, you can't keep rolling it over and getting a bigger and bigger loan, and eventually you end up foreclosed on and you're out in the street. Now what? Oh, your credit's ruined on top of it. Of course, the banks that did this, they all got bailed out. Jamie Dimon didn't spend a day in jail for any of his part in this, neither did Angelo Mozillo. And by the way, while Dimon might have actually not been all that involved, Mozillo, on the other hand, how about Washington Mutual? How many people did they hose? How about IndyMac? And by the way, don't give me this BS about any of these guys actually underwriting loans and it all being the customer's fault. Hey, you know what? The bank has superior information. They're the people who are supposed to be the watchdogs. Why? Because they're supposed to be smarter. Yeah, they were smarter, all right. Smarter at ripping everybody off. And then you got, we got private equity in doctors' offices. Yeah, we got them in the dental office, too. That's why every time I go in, even though I got a bad genetic draw in the lottery, and my teeth are not the straightest, and, they're kind of crappy. Hey, listen, let's face it. Man was originally designed to have a life of about 40 years, 45 years, and we managed to double that because technology, that's fantastic. So, the sort of bad genetic draw in the lottery, I still have all my teeth, but they're not great. Every time I go in there, they try to sell me $35,000 worth of work. What is it? Oh, they want to pull them all out and they want to put all implants in there, which may last for a while, but what happens when they fail? Because they're not alive, they deteriorate like everything else in the world. It's called entropy. I'm not stupid, but they apparently think I am. And boy, they have ads running on a televisions on a continuous loop out in the waiting room. Sell you this, sell you that, sell you that. Yeah, we'll come in here, we'll optimize your plans. Why don't we do this? Everybody pays the same price and everybody posts the price. Why can't I have medical care the same way that I have gasoline at the gas station on the corner or food and electronics at Walmart? Why is it that if the price is $379 for this TV, it's not $379 for this surgical procedure or whatever else I need, and it's the same $379 no matter who in the blankety blank I am? Why don't we do that? Because then, all the scamming would go away and the stock market would go down. But you know what? The average person, who's the person you need to make those babies, they'd have more money. And more importantly, they'd have more money in real terms. It doesn't matter how many dollars you have. What matters is what they buy. You have an average transaction value on a new car now, well over $30,000. Are you kidding me? So what sort of stupidity is that? Why don't you take a look at what a car used to cost in 1985? What a truck used to cost. I looked this up. You look at the so-called inflation rate, the CPI of new vehicles. And then you take that inflation rate and you multiply it by the base year, what the car used to cost, a truck. For example, a half-ton truck. And you tell me where you can buy one for that because, by the way, that number's about $14,000. Excuse me? You can't find a truck for $14,000? A brand new half-ton pickup for $14,000? I don't care if it's a stripper, has no extra features, whatever. You can't buy one. It's not available at that price, period. End of discussion. Why not? Oh, well, wait a minute. But, I have lane departure warning systems, and I have radar cruise control, and I have all these fancy... What if I don't want any of that stuff? What if I just want something that gets me to work? Jack, it's a nice idea, Poso. It really is. And all the rest of you scolds. But you want to know something? For young people who are deciding, nope, we're just not going to do that. And guess what? We have very reliable birth control these days. We have pills, we have condoms, we have IUDs, we have all sorts of other things. And if you really decide you don't want any more kids, you can go get cut. Of course, they won't do it if you're young because they're afraid you'll sue. Do I blame any of the young people in this country today who have decided they're not having any children? Nope, not a bit. Because it's people like you and I, Jack, you and I, that have refused to storm the Bastille, that have refused to show up in front of Washington, D.C., in the National Mall. 1% of America. That's 3 million Americans. That is more people than have ever protested on the National Mall, ever, in the history of the country. It is 3 times larger than Martin Luther King's speech in his march. 3 times. It would shut the city down. And we just have one set of demands. Number one, every medical monopolist, they're broken up right now. All people post a price. All people pay the same price. Period. End of discussion. Let competition reign. That's step 1. Step 2, the federal government does not run a deficit. Period. End of discussion, except in time of declared war. In fact, they are mandated to run a 2% surplus. Why do they run a 2% surplus? Because that's approximately the rate of productivity improvement. And therefore, they should be able to do more with less, just like everybody else. And if you did this, what would happen? The hidden inflation that's stealing the purchasing power of the American public would go away. And furthermore, virtually everybody would see about a 15% improvement in their purchasing power immediately from the decrease in the cost of medical care, medical taxes, the nonsense that's currently taken out of your paycheck. You don't see it, but it's still spent. You'd get that money in your check. The cost of business and operation would come down. We'd be the haven of the world. Okay, that's step one. Step two, all illegal aliens, every last one of them leaves now, including all those cartel members, but not limited to them. Because you know what? If I want to live in a nice, quiet lifestyle in this nice little part of Alabama that's real pretty, it's just outside Huntsville, the county is overrun with gangbangers. And they're Mexican illegal immigrant gangbangers. Why in the hell are they here? Because they're running drugs. And you know what? It's cheap to live there. But I'm likely to get shot. My kid's likely to get raped. Why in the hell would I want to live in a shithole like that? So, all the illegals go away. And now what happens to the wage base? Oh, gee, it goes up. Oh, what a shock. You can't have oh, by the way, we don't have people getting killed when they're building Hard Rock Cafe hotels out in out in New Orleans either, do we? Because, hey, that crew was full of illegals. How in the hell did that happen? 100% E-Verify. You get caught as an employer, and guess what? You're going to prison. We're going to put a $10,000 per illegal invader bounty on anyone that rats you out. And if you don't have those control numbers on your 941s, you're paying somebody on under the table, you go to jail. 10 years in the slam. No fines, no negotiation. We seize your business. In the slam, you go, period, end of discussion, full stop. No more Mexican trade. We shut the border. Why? Because that's where all the illegal invaders and all of the gangs are coming from. And by the way, we were lied about what NAFTA was going to do. We were told that the wages in Mexico for construction and everything else would rise to about $15 an hour, $25 an hour. And we'd have parity, about $25 an hour for manufacturing in the United States, about $25 an hour in Mexico. And the Mexicans would be able to buy those expensive trucks. That was a lie. The wage rate there today, $3 an hour. But you know what? We, America, we won't do it. So don't give me this scold about people not having babies. Because until the adults who don't want to have any more babies, or maybe they do, or maybe they just like their family to have a better life than they have, their children, when they're willing to show up out there, get off their butts and show up on the National Mall and refuse to leave until these simple things are done, which will instantaneously improve the standard of living for everybody in this country, you can all go suck eggs. That's my thought for the day before Thanksgiving. You want to give thanks? For what? I'm your ticker guy.